Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer here at Memorial Gymnasium after Vanderbilt's 65-62 win. Just a few minutes ago, Jerry Stackhouse sat in this very seat I'm sitting in and said this was a gritty win. And I don't think I could describe it any better than that. I think that's probably the story of the day is just the way Vanderbilt found a way to win. They didn't have their best today. They didn't have their alpha offensively in Jordan Wright. Didn't have their best performance from Tyron Lawrence, Liam Robbins. Really didn't turn it on until the second half. And Vanderbilt still found a way to win despite turning it over 15 times. Didn't shoot it incredibly well against a defense that they probably should have shot it a little bit better against and got better looks against. Vanderbilt also didn't shoot free throws very well when they seemed to be in position to throw a knockout punch. Just kept letting Wofford back in the game. And that's kind of what the Wofford Terriers do. They kind of want to slow things down, and they're just good enough to where they can stick around against these type of teams. Only lost to LSU by 3 as well. But Vanderbilt found a way to win tonight. I think that's the big story, along with a few other things. They had 4 guys in double figures. Liam Robbins with 14, Miles Studi with 11, Ezra Manjon with 11, and Tyron Lawrence with 13. Trey Thomas also had 8 huge points to end the 8 or 10-point Wofford run to start the half that really seemed like it was the changing of the tides in this game. Trey Thomas stopped the bleeding, and Jerry Stackhouse really liked to see what he saw from Trey Thomas today after he returned from his injury. Just brings a lot of experience, and Stackhouse is certainly a big proponent of that. He did play a lot of his young guys today. Got 6 points from Colin Smith. Didn't get a whole lot from any of the other ones. Paul Lewis was out again today with an injury, along with Jordan Wright, obviously, which we'll talk about in a second. Malik Dia and Lee Dort both played a few minutes. Dort played 13 in some of the 2 big lineups, and Malik Dia played 4 minutes as kind of that tweener big. But I think one of the big stories today, like I mentioned, is that 2 big lineup. You saw Liam Robbins and Quentin Malora-Brown play north of 10 minutes together throughout the day. Lee Dort also was on the floor with Quentin Malora-Brown for a little bit, and that's something that Jerry Stackhouse seems to want to do moving forward a little bit more. They tried it last year. Didn't quite work, but I think Stackhouse really wants to experiment with that, especially with Jordan Wright out, because it seems like it's plausible that it could work. I don't know that it will work, but Liam Robbins can stretch the floor well enough to be a threat out there, to be kind of a 4, and then they're decent enough defensively, at least mobile enough to be serviceable as a 2 big lineup defensively. Also helps you get probably 2 of your 5 or 6 best players on the floor, maybe 7 with Quentin Malora-Brown. I think Robbins is probably their best player right now, but we'll get into that argument another day. But that's kind of what his aim is. He wants to be better defensively with that group in terms of shot blocking. He wants to have more length and more height on the floor. And he really tried to exploit that today against Wofford, a team with a guy who was 6'8" or 6'9", playing center for most of the day. You did see kind of where things could go wrong defensively, though. Wofford's center hit 4 threes and was really left untouched on the perimeter on a lot of those. Robbins and Malora-Brown didn't quite get out there enough. They can't switch and hedge as much as they might like if they have those 2 bigs on the floor, which I do think they might be able to down the road a little bit more because they'll have a shot blocker in the paint, even if the guard gets by the big that was kind of switching or hedging. But I do think that's something that Stack wants to use moving forward. He said that's something he wants to use moving forward. And today was really when we saw it the most. We saw the 2 bigs start, and we saw them play significant minutes together throughout the evening. And Vanderbilt seems to want to make that kind of their identity at some points in the season. I think Stackhouse still likes the 4-out, 1-in type of offense a little bit better, but seems to be open to experimenting with that type of lineup, especially with Jordan Wright not on the floor. And Jordan Wright tonight missed with a back injury. Stack didn't give an update as to whether it was precautionary or had he re-injured it, but it's certain that Jordan Wright did not look like himself over the last few days, over the last few games. And it was probably good that they sat him out today, especially because they came out with the win. I think the more time he has to kind of heal that injury, the better, because I think they kind of rushed him back on the floor for that VCU game. It showed when Wright was on the floor, couldn't really play a lot of the second half. And I think it's also a good test for them to kind of see where their offense comes from without Jordan Wright on the floor, and kind of helps the other guys get a little bit of confidence, maybe like a Tyron Lawrence or an Ezra Manjon, to say, hey, I got to step up, I got to hit shots. And then when Wright comes back, those guys will have bigger performances under their belts. And know that they're capable of doing more. Tyron Lawrence had 13 tonight, got off to a slow start. I think he has a little bit of mental slowing down to do, but you can see just how special he can be. 13 points tonight out of 6 for 10 from the field. Had a rough start, but made a huge play down the stretch there to put them up 3. And really to ice this game, Wofford had a chance in the last possession, but couldn't convert. And I think Tyron Lawrence's layup was probably the biggest play of this game. Liam Robbins missed the free throw thereafter that put Wofford back in the game. Then Vanderbilt fouled, and Wofford couldn't get that last basket in. Vanderbilt wins, and I think maybe one of the bigger stories today is also Ezra Mannion had 11 points, 5 for 8 from the field. You don't think of that as a huge stat line, but he also had a block, a steal, and held Wofford's leading scorer heading into this game to 6 points on just a few field goals. He did have 5 assists, but you can kind of see what Jerry Stackhouse likes in Ezra Mannion today. Ezra Mannion, sorry. It's a habit, but Ezra, I think, did a great job of getting up into Wofford's guards and just kind of starting the snake, as he said, just make sure that they're not going to get comfortable bringing the ball up the floor. They're not going to be able to make that entry pass comfortably. And I think that made a huge impact today on a freshman guard who had been really good so far, but ran into a veteran who is probably quicker than he is, probably faster than he is, and made a lot of plays today. Offensively, I think his perimeter shot is still a little bit of a work in progress. Stackhouse talked about that a bit and just said that it is a work in progress, but he does think that that's something that can be improved, and he's going to let him shoot it at least a decent amount. He didn't shoot a 3 today, but did shoot a little bit from the mid-range, and he's obviously best when he's getting downhill, and I think is the more that can be opened up for Ezra Mannion, the more that this team's offense can kind of flow, and you're seeing him get more comfortable. He told me after the game that he is getting a little more comfortable and that the guys are making it easier on him to kind of step into that bigger role without Jordan Wright, and you saw it tonight. Big night for Ezra Mannion. Probably his best game is Vanderbilt Commodore today, and I think there's only 1 or 2 other games that you could really even think of defensively is where he set himself apart today, and that's where he wants to set himself apart as a point guard in the SEC as well. So big day for him, big day for Liam Robbins as well, who just keeps putting out great performances, keeps cementing himself as or at least cementing his case as Vanderbilt's best player. Jordan Wright would probably have something to say about that, but Liam Robbins has been exceptional lately. 14 points today, 9 rebounds. Did he have a block? He had 3 blocks, 2 of which were on 1 possession, I believe. And just today was a big day for him. And when Vanderbilt needed points late in the second half, Liam Robbins was there, got an alley-oop, I think hit a post hook and really just energized this team. And I think the biggest issue with their offense early on was just that they had absolutely no post presence and that their guards weren't good enough to carry the load without a post presence. Like a Notre Dame, probably good enough to get away with not having a post presence. Vanderbilt probably isn't quite that good. And especially when your post presence is Liam Robbins and he can be as much of a contributor as he was tonight. This is arguably their best player, their anchor defensively. Liam Robbins has become so important to this team, and the fact that they weren't utilizing him in the first week is probably a big reason why they lost that Southern Miss game and couldn't get the offense going early against Memphis. You saw even early in that Memphis game when they dumped it down to him, they got a good look. Now they're being more intentional about getting him looks, getting him the ball out of the pick and roll, and just making him a focal point in the offense without Jordan Wright, and even with Jordan Wright. So Liam Robbins is certainly a bright spot in this team and someone that they can use moving forward and is one of the better bigs in the SEC to me. Miles Stute started out 4 for 6 from the field, 3 for 3 from 3, had 11 points early, 11 of their first 15 before the first media timeout, but really tailed off towards the end. I don't think Miles Stute is to blame for this being a close game, though. Miles Stute is kind of the constant with this team and someone that they can really rely on. And you see Stack talk about a guy like Lawrence being kind of streaky. Stute is the opposite, and there's a reason why he is starting every game for this team, and you saw that early tonight. Got to have a little more consistency throughout SEC play, at least throughout the course of a game. But big night tonight for Miles Stute, even if it wasn't as big as the other ones. But the story of the night was Ezra Mannion. Also, the 2 big lineup and Vanderbilt just finding a way to win without Jordan Wright. Jordan Wright, like I said, is their guy on the offensive end, and without him, they obviously struggle a little bit to get offense against a team that maybe isn't awesome defensively, but they did just enough to win tonight in a 65-62 win against Wofford. Vanderbilt will move to 4-4 and 2-2 at Memorial Gymnasium as they move to try to build their resume next Wednesday against Pitt. So thank you guys for watching. God bless and peace.